There's a deer. Right here. Buck.
Whitetail deer have challenged hunters for years.
I see movement back there. It's a pretty good buck. Shoot him.
This time we sent 3 of the best hunters in search of trophy whitetail up and down the central U.S. on Winchester's Whitetail Revolution. Winchester's Whitetail Revolution is brought to you by Winchester Ammunition, the American legend. Bushnell Optics, magnify life. Code Blue, perfecting the science of hunting. Winchester Repeating Arms, the guns that work. This week, we meet back up with Steve Stoltz, Willie Schmidt, and Bob Folkrod as they bear down on the bucks in the Midwest and the post-ruts. They've all got trophies in the 180-plus range, so these hunters are no strangers to large bucks. But they'll have to use all their tricks and tactics to get a sight on these deer as conditions go from bad to worse. Firefighter and buck hunter Steve Stoltz has chased prize deer all over North America in his lifetime, including this 9-pointer taken in Alberta earlier this year. Steve now finds himself on the border of Indiana and Illinois at Lamont Outdoors, trying grunts, rattles, and scent trailing to get a trophy buck in range.
You don't think we're having fun? Guess what? We're having a ball doing this stuff right here.
And even though he has proven himself to be a top-notch deer harvester time and time again, some trophies remain a little more elusive than others.
Good to be back.
Yeah, good to have you back.
Awesome. Hey, Larry. Well, I'm really looking forward to going to Lamont Outdoors once again. I was there a couple years ago and down to incredible whitetail there. And the potential is really good for a great whitetail. They've got ground in both Illinois and in southwest Indiana. And on this hunt, I'm going to get to hunt the Indiana river bottoms of the Wabash River. Well, we were a little leery about the spot only because it just kind of was out in the middle of nowhere. You know, it was obviously a travel corridor between 2 food plots, but Mark and Bert have been seeing some good ones in there. We no sooner got the blind up, got in, and I'm going to say within 5 minutes, we started seeing deer.
I see movement back there. It's a buck. He's scent trailing those does. He's following right the way the does came through.
Well, normally, you know, especially hunting with a shotgun, I like to be mobile. I like to be able to move, spot and stalk. But on this hunt here, based on what we were starting to see, deer were starting to show up right away, we knew we made the right choice, and this was probably the travel corridor that we needed to spend some time in.
Here comes a deer. It's a buck. It's not a shooter. Right here. Buck. Oh, it's not a shooter.
All right, so far so good on this hunt. We're down here in southwest Indiana at Lamont Outdoors, and we've been covered up with whitetails. And I think the game plan so far is to stay put, stay hunting that same drainage. Eventually we'll see a shooter.
Shooter. No, I don't think he's not quite big enough, but a good looking deer. Look at him. I don't know if he's a shooter. It's a good buck though. Way down there at the end. Look at him.
Well, the movement's been incredible so far in the bedding areas, things like that. But on this hunt here, based on what we were starting to see, deer were starting to show up right away. We knew we made the right choice and stick it out in that travel corridor. We're just seeing too much buck movement.
Well, here at Lamont Outdoors, we've got several guides that work for us that all year long are figuring out where these whitetails are and where they're moving. And year after year, you know, we start getting the same patterns on these deer, so we make sure that all of our clients have the best opportunity, and we'll do whatever it takes to get guys on big deer.
There's a deer coming. I don't know if he's a shooter. It's a good buck, though.
Well, unfortunately for me, it's kind of a short hunt. We're only here a couple days. So what I hope to do is at least get a shooter buck in. And Lamont Outdoors has a minimum 130 class on their whitetails, and that's going to be hard to deal with in a short hunt. But I think we can get it done. Lamont Outdoors got some great property.
Coming up next.
It's showtime. So I'm going to get on the ground, do some spot and stalk in through some timber that they've been seeing some big ones mid to late morning.
As Steve tests his patience for his buck, Mike Hanback shares an incredible story of patience and determination as one hunter attempts to fulfill a lifelong dream on buck of a lifetime.
Greg Brownlee hunted the early black powder season in Kansas and saw some good deer, but you know, it was early and decided to hold off. In November, he got a call from the landowner. He'd seen a monster near the same stand where Greg hunted. Greg hustled back up there, all fired up. Now the rut was on and the deer were chasing. Late one afternoon, a doe stepped out of the tree line and looked back. Greg got ready. Then an enormous rack stepped out. The buck followed the doe straight towards the stand, but they stopped 150 yards out. Why? What was wrong? But Greg knew it was now or never, so he fired his muzzleloader. When the smoke cleared, the giant buck had gone only 20 yards. Greg fell over when he stepped up to the giant. The 22-pointer gross score, 218. Big lesson here. Greg did a super job reading that buck's body language and demeanor, and then he shot the deer before he got away. That's a critical but often misunderstood key to killing big bucks. For more great big buck action like Greg, check us out on the web at versuscountry.com.
Well, you know, it's been my experience that when a front moves in and before a front moves in, whitetails move very good. After the front moves through, they still move pretty good. Once the weather levels out, pressure system levels out, and the weather gets kind of consistent, the movement slows down. And that's what we've experienced on this third day and last day of the hunt, is the deer movement just shut down.
It's showtime. And so I'm going to get on the ground and do some spot and stalk in through some timber that they've been seeing some big ones mid to late morning. And so my game plan now is they're not coming by me, I'm going to go to them.
We decided to stalk through and glass and look and try and find a buck in that travel corridor we were seeing so many deer earlier.
There's a deer right here. I don't know if he's a shooter. It's a good buck, though. Way down there at the end. Oh, it's not a shooter.
Hey, Mark. Well, it's not like I didn't have a chance for a buck on this hunt because we saw plenty. Just not quite the buck I was looking for. Well, this was only a 3-day hunt. That's all we had time to come down here and hunt in southwest Indiana. And unfortunately, we didn't bag a good buck. But the fact remains is we had buck after buck in front of us. Lamont Outdoors did their job. They put us on the deer. And it was an exciting hunt. Anytime whether you're stalking or you're setting stationary and you see whitetail after whitetail go by your position, it's an exciting hunt. And I will be back because the monster bucks are here.
Western Illinois certainly does not have a shortage of trophy whitetails, and Willie Schmidt is on the trail of a monster in the December snow and ice. It's cold and the terrain is varied, and Willie is on the move. When it comes to taking big deer, Willie knows what it takes. His patience and determination almost always pays off.
First time I've ever hunted in Illinois, and first time I've hunted slug guns, so it's a whole unique experience for me. It's early December, post-rut, but these big bucks ought to still be interested in some of those late estrus does, so I'm looking forward to seeing what Illinois has to offer, the land of the giant whitetail.
You must be Willie. Good to have you here. Nice to meet you. Good to have you. Thanks. When we set out to start Performance Outdoors, that was over a decade ago in '97. Performance Outdoors' focus is to find and chase big whitetails and to bring clients and harvest animals that truly are bucks of a lifetime.
My initial impression of Ron is good guy, certainly knows whitetails, knows the farms. I love hunting these whitetails. It's early December, post-rut, but these big bucks ought to still be interested in some of those late estrus does. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Illinois has to offer. Oh yeah! We've got a southwest wind today, this afternoon, so we're going to take Ron's advice and go set up on a part of the farm we haven't sat up on yet. But they've got a little sanctuary, a horseshoe of water that's on the property, and kind of a bowl where a lot of the deer have been sitting in bedding area. Got code blues, stealth dust. Pretty cold out and some of that liquid can freeze, so my understanding is that this farm is about 600 acres, hasn't been hunted in a little bit, and they left it available for us. It's one with the most terrain, so that offers a pretty good opportunity for spot and stock and going different areas and setting up. Well, we finally saw a shooter buck this morning. We came down working out of this cornfield and caught him and about 7 or 8 does out in the field. Appeared to be a 10-point, possibly 12, but he was about 150 yards away and fed down into this draw. This wind's pushing the front out of here, so we're going to get a little more aggressive and try to see if we can get one in his bed.
Willie is in unfamiliar terrain with a slug gun, and the conditions will make stalking wary, late-season deer challenging. The weather and the wind are not working in his favor.
You know, we've had, I wouldn't say a little bit of everything weather-wise. We've had cold, we've had high winds, we've had some snow, some sun. It's melted some of it off, but then once that snow starts melting, it freezes and gets to be icy, so it's been pretty noisy. Wind direction's changed quite a bit. We've had everything from northwest to east, southeast, but the farm offers lots of different opportunities for different access points to hunt the wind and hopefully not spook the game that you're going as you're entering some of those hunting areas. We're going to try a new tactic tonight for our evening hunt. We're going to go set up on a cornfield where we saw that pretty nice buck and a few does this morning. We're going to cross this creek. They gave us some waders. Come in totally downwind. Got to get these size 13. I'm going to be swimming in them. I've got a much smaller foot than a 13, but fortunately only have to wear them for about 30 feet. So we'll give it a shot.
Winchester's Whitetail Revolution is brought to you by Winchester Ammunition, the American legend. Bushnell Optics, magnify life. Code Blue, perfecting the science of hunting. Winchester Repeating Arms, the guns that work.
Well, it's our last night here in Illinois, last night of gun season. We've got a couple hours of light left, and we're set up here on the edge of a bean field where we've seen some deer coming in hopefully if they come out, it's with enough shooting light and we get a shooter within about 150 yards. So keeping our fingers crossed. So far we've had several close encounters. The bucks haven't been responding to rattling, but we've had a few come in using the grunt call, and unfortunately none of them have been large enough. Well, we didn't get it done on this trip to Illinois. It wasn't for lack of bucks. We thought we had a good setup tonight and had 3 bucks come by within about 70 yards. But you know, not killing a buck doesn't mean it wasn't a successful hunt. I met some great people, saw some new country, and got to see a lot of wildlife. So at the end of the day, I considered it a success. Just didn't pull the trigger on a big buck, one that was justifiable for performance outdoors. So we had a great time. Look forward to coming back next year and getting that one that we didn't get this year.
Down in the central United States, Bob Folkrod is glassing in the frigid cold weather as the bucks continue to chase does in the thick Kansas cover. The conditions are right, and Bob is on the trail of a monster. If anyone knows how to stalk, lure, and take down a prize whitetail, it's Folkrod.
That one didn't ground shrink any. Nice Texas buck right there.
He's taken more trophies than most hunters could dream of.
There's a buck right there. There's a buck right there. A young buck. That kind of warms you up though when you see it, when you see a buck. There's that buck right there. Either. This is perfect. We got the sun to our back. Both deer turn around and looking at us. Looking this way, they're looking right into the sun. I'm sure that's going to help us. There's a buck right there. He's high, but he's still a young buck. It's been a real exciting morning. It's been cold, but it's been exciting. There's just been deer moving back and forth.
As the sun sets on Bob's second day, he is still in search of the buck he is after. But the Kansas whitetail seemed to have his location pegged and remain just outside of his gun's range.
There's a deer in that camp. That's a pretty good buck. Always was a dog. He's high. He just laid down. Oh, he's just stood back up again. Oh, he's went over to bump that doe. No, he ain't big enough. Oh, he's pretty going through that yellow grass. Man, that just was topped the morning off. It was already a great morning. Could have been almost a fantastic morning. He'd have been just a titch bigger had I shot that deer.
There's a few factors like on any hunt that play into sometimes your success or not success, and you know, I never look at the calendar, but
There's so many factors I think that come into play as to why I'd still dearly love to hunt whitetail deer. Because if I had to come down to one animal that I could hunt, there's no question it'd be a whitetail deer. They are so challenging. They're unforgiving in a lot of different ways.
you know, you think you get one figured out, and just about the time you get him, you think you've got him figured out, he's going to teach you a new lesson.
Well, I've known no hunting is ever easy. We gave it 100% every day, but they're still animals and they're going to do what they want to do.
You know, the hunt for me, again, just being in this environment, you having the opportunity to participate in it, you know, there's just so many things, like we said, have to come into play for it to be successful. Being on the hunt, on the ground, is where the adrenaline charge comes for me.
You know, hunting whitetails, you've got all sorts of options, but it's a tough game. You've got to have a lot of patience, and it really wears you out. You can't just hunt the way you want to hunt. You've got to play the game the way it has to be played to be successful.